everyone. This month I wanted to talk about the herb wood betony. I started using it a few weeks ago because I've been having horrific sleep problems. And I originally bought the herb for a client who was struggling with digestive problems and feeling like a sense of ungroundedness. Wood betony is an herb that is often used to provide a sense of groundedness and connectedness within, as it really supports the solar plexus and gut. It's a wonderful nervine herb, which means it's soothing, it's relaxing. If you have nervous type tension, either from, developing headaches or like a nervous upset stomach, this is a really great herb for that. The Latin name for wood betony is Stachys officinalis. It has a lovely taste. It kind of reminds me of like a weak black tea or oolong or something like that. I really like it. I drink it straight with no sweeteners, just as simple as a single herb brewed and steeped for about 20 minutes. I take 1 ounce of herb by weight, so it's quite a lot of herb, and then I infuse it in 16 ounces of water. That gives you a medicinal dose. If you want a beverage dose of herb, you can infuse 1 teaspoon of herb in 8 ounces of water, cover it and let it steep for the 10 to 20 minutes, and then drink that. But the beverage is for taste. You won't receive any of the benefits of it relaxing your mind or your body, or soothing a nervous type stomach, or providing a sense of deep rooted groundedness. You won't get that from a beverage dose. You need the medicinal 1 ounce of herb per 16 ounces of water dose. What I have is one of the big French presses from IKEA, and I put about that much herb in the bottom, and then I top it off with just boiled water, and then I put the plunger down just so that the plunger is below the top level of water to keep all the herbs submerged. And then I let that steep for 20 or 30 minutes. Because it's such a large volume of liquid, it stays pretty warm for a long time. I've made wood betony oil to apply to muscle aches and pains that aren't really responding to other oils or liniments, and have found really nice benefit from that. So it makes sense that I'm using this plant right now, because in the previous uses that it was any problem that you couldn't figure out what the problem was, wood betony was used. Wood betony was considered almost like a panacea, but it fell out of favor, and which is why after over 10 years of being an herbalist, I'm just starting to use wood betony now. And the only reason why I started using it was because, one, I had my herbal client who really needed support, but I was kind of at a loss and realized I needed 1 or 2 herbs to help her. And wood betony came up even though I didn't know anything about it. And then for myself, because of my awful sleep problems, I was up in the middle of the night just crying because I had been unable to get good sleep for so long. I was just at my wit's end. And a little voice inside said, make some wood betony tea and then lay down. So that's what I did. Made my wood betony tea. I laid down, I drank half a cup of tea, and the next thing I know, I'm asleep for 3 hours, which was great. Other uses for wood betony. The one that stands out the most to me right now, because of everything that we've all been going through for the past year, with how so many of our lives have been turned upside down, is that there are herbalists using wood betony in the treatment, or rather in the recovery of the effects of trauma, PTSD, and an addiction recovery. A brief side note about addiction recovery and why this is important within the context of PTSD and trauma is that researchers and doctors like Gabor Mate propose that the reason why there are addiction issues, someone has an addiction issue, such as being an alcoholic or addicted to pot or cocaine or prescription drugs, is that a traumatic event happened, and using the substance or whatever means necessary, workaholism is included in this, as are many other, facets and guises of addiction, is that this rift happened and made us feel that we were separated from our authentic innate selves and that the world wasn't safe. And the way to feel safe again was to ingest this substance, work all the time, binge shop, binge eat, etc., etc., etc. Now, it's a coping mechanism that is, it seems like it's helping at the time, but in the long run, it's causing you harm in some way. And I think it's really interesting that wood betony is being used for trauma recovery and that wood betony helps us reconnect with our solar plexus and gets us grounded again and soothes us enough that we can stop being so much in our head and get more back into our body and rooted in our body. It makes me think that wood betony has a profound effect on the vagus nerve. And vagus nerve is a really hot topic, I think, a couple of years ago. And it's the gut-brain connection, essentially. Now, of course, it's more subtle than that, but if this interests you, you should definitely do some reading and learn more about it for sure. And I find it very interesting that the fact that I was called to start using wood betony for myself and all of these newer uses of it is because the marriage was impacted by addiction. I was the non-addicted spouse, but being in a relationship where addiction is present, whether it's a family system or a romantic relationship, trauma can occur and it takes time to recover from. And I just really like how things have kind of circled back around. So I wanted to say that about the wood betony, and I guess to share a little bit more about my story because it's important in the context of years of fighting for as much goodness and good health as possible and not having a lot of traction, and then now being out of that and gaining so much traction has been really a beautiful thing. I recently got blood work back for my thyroid. I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis over 4 years ago. And without any medication, I have managed my Hashimoto's is in remission to the point where if a regular doctor checked my thyroid and they would not know that I had Hashimoto's. So I think that, it was a nice reminder that recovery from really hard things is possible for me, and that all the hard work of all the years of the dietary changes and the meditation and all the herbs make a difference. And that's why I share so much with you about what's going on with me, because I'm a really firm believer in practicing what I'm preaching and in living with as much integrity between what I speak about, the medicine that is Chinese medicine and other traditional medical systems like Ayurveda, for example. It's really important to have integrity around that. At the same time, I've had a lot of pride around this integrity, in that I'm not very good at asking for outside help that's not a part of this system of working. Which is to say, I suffered with over 4 months of really awful insomnia that I thought would resolve on its own with the assistance of herbs and other modalities. And I wasn't gaining enough traction, or any traction really, and things were getting worse. And I finally, at the behest of a dear friend, said, called in the help of a medical professional, a specialist. And I'm now taking a prescription to help manage the anxiety/panic attacks that I've been having all these months. It's been a very, very humbling experience that really brings me back to when I first started with herbs to begin with. And I started with herbs because I had horrible migraines and even worse premenstrual dysphoric disorder. I had been on medication for the PMDD, the premenstrual dysphoric disorder, and I was very unhappy with how I felt felt on the medication. So I started looking for other ways of managing my condition, which is what led me to becoming an herbalist. I figured, instead of going to an herbalist to be told what to do, I would learn about the herbs myself in addition to being told what to do. And then here we are over 10 years later. And I'm telling you all over again, as if it's day one, that it's really hard to say, I feel like I'm starting at square one, but I'm not, because I have all these tools. So that's really what I feel like I'm offering to people who come to work with me and take it seriously. I feel like if someone is truly committed, real deep, lasting change can occur. And yet we can come back to where we started again, but be further up, because we've had years of learning experiences and growth, for us to say, well, here I am, I get to start this new adventure, and I have all these resources already at my disposal. So what's next? What's next? And so when someone comes to work with me and they've never done herbs or had to do dietary changes so that the herbs can do their job, I know that it's really, really hard, because, oh my gosh, I did so many elimination diets in the years before I worked with a practitioner who was able to set me on a good path. I mean, I think I was doing elimination diets for 6 or 7 years before I met with someone who was able to put it all together for me in a really clear and concise way, just trying things on my own. It was a long time. I mean, I'm trying to think of how many years it was. It was 10 years of me trying to figure it out on my own before I started working with someone who really got it. who really could take a look at everything and say, this is what you should eat. This is what you should avoid eating. These are the herbs that you need to be taking right now. I want you to be doing X, Y, and Z on a daily basis. And, let's, see what comes up for you emotionally, and, how is that reflected elsewhere in your life? And it's provided a really great map for me to navigate these really dark times where it's hard to trust that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I gotta say, man, going through a separation and divorce, even when you're the one asking for it, is a dark time. And thank goodness for the people in my life who've been there before me, who can remind me that, there is light on the other side, and to just keep doing what you're doing. And for the friends to say, you've done all you can do. You need to bring in more help. So this herbalist I feel like I'm back where I was many, many years ago, where I had to take medicine for a condition that was no longer manageable for me, except now I have all these additional things, and it's not just the medicine I'm taking. The medicine is sort of like an adjunct. It's like a tertiary thing. It's not the thing. And I just want to share that so that everybody knows that it builds on itself. If you keep showing up for yourself, it builds on it. And if anybody else plays an instrument or has some kind of skill-oriented practice, that like you start not really having a lot, but then over time it builds. And doing this work with your health in this way, it builds on itself. And it's not about being perfect, because listen, we're never going to be perfect. We're never going to eat perfectly unless we want to be completely neurotic about it, which I don't want to be. I just had some hot chocolate, even though I'm not supposed to be eating chocolate after like 2 p.m. I just felt like I needed it, and my period's due in a few days, so I treated myself to a little chocolate. So nobody's perfect. We all do our best. It's just, our best looks different depending on where we're at in the journey. And I hope that if you're interested in starting a journey like that you'll consider working with me. I have a few slot openings, and I'm working on some new offerings. I don't know when the release date is yet. It's like so new that I don't even know what it really looks like yet, but I know that I have some new things on the horizon coming for you that will include learning about herbs and yourself, and taking deep dives, and living from a more heart-centered life that will hopefully help keep you grounded when the going gets tough. And so that's where things are at. I was hoping to keep this under 10 minutes, but now I'm looking at the timer and it says 18:50. But I think I've taken 30 takes of this little talk, and 10 minutes just isn't enough. It feels rushed. It doesn't feel really hard. Like, this is a hard topic for me to be talking about in a lot of ways. And I just hope that whatever it is that you're struggling with, if you realize that it's more than you can handle, that you please reach out to someone, and that you just get what you need, and that you show up for yourself, and that you remind yourself and show yourself every day that you love yourself, and treat yourself with kindness and compassion. And a new word that I'm learning to be more cognizant of for my inner life is to have some mercy and forgiveness for myself. So I wish that for you as well. And I wish you enjoying the wood betony, bringing you some peaceful sleep and relaxation in these times where things still feel very much up in the air for a lot of us. And if you're one of the lucky ones who's not been as affected by all of this, God bless you. And may we all be happy and healthy and fulfilled with our authentic selves. Have a good day.